I'm a published author of erotic fiction. Hi Mum, hi Gran, back there, and the first girl I ever had a crush on. Thank you to Elliots Coffee House for doing this, and thank you to Mai for putting this on, especially for raising money for a great charity as well. I think we should all give her a round of applause. I've written a children's fable, bit of a challenge to myself. I haven't written anything like that before, so that was interesting, kind of researching that and reading forward to many Grimm Brothers tales in the last couple of weeks. I've used one of the characters, the main Humble Bumble character, and I've written a story around him and created some of the characters. It's a morality tale. It's called the Smug Snail. One morning, our nomadic bug friend kissed his wife goodbye and decided upon a stroll. After all, it was such a nice day. Almost straight away he ran into his friend, Colin the millipede. The pair had met at a car boot sale one summer day the year previous. Humble Bumble had been struck by a table placed next to a rusty old mini metro and a vast array of different shoes on display. Boots, heels, slingbacks, Doc Martens, furry animal slippers and wingtips made from alligator skin were all for sale under the heat of the sun. "That's an impressive collection," said Humble Bumble to Colin, who was the owner of all the shoes in the old car. "Thank you," said Colin. "I go through many shoes as you would expect. I spend a fortune and have many different kinds." Indeed, the millipede had, and he was himself sporting perfect examples of this. In fact, at that time, Humble Bumble could not see Colin wearing more than one pair of shoes at the same time. "Are you ever tempted to just buy the one kind so that they all match?" "Have you ever tried buying 500 pairs of the same shoe in one shop?" replied Colin. Humble Bumble shrugged and shook his head. On their walk through the garden, the two bugs happened upon a growing disturbance in the distance. "It sounds like cheering," said Colin. "And singing," pondered Humble Bumble. As the pair came closer to the noise, Colin turned to his friend, groaned and rolled his eyes. "Oh, I know what that is." "What?" wondered Humble Bumble. "It's Sully." As the clearing appeared, Colin and Humble Bumble saw what all the commotion was about. Amongst the freshly cut grass and flanked by bluebells and hollyhocks, about 50 other bugs and creepy crawlies formed a large circle. It was about 3 or 4 deep in some places. They were whooping, clapping and cheering along to the performance in their big shades, cowboy hats and flip-flops. In the centre, crooning into a microphone and occasionally blowing into an alto sax, was a snail. Humble Bumble looked at Colin quizzically. "That's Sully," he sighed. "The snail? Do you know him?" "Yes," the millipede sighed again. "We went to school together, but lately we drifted apart." Sully was halfway through the Willie Dixon song, Built for Comfort, and his shell was rocking from side to side in time with the music. To one side he was accompanied by the local branch of the Frog Chorus, and Humble Bumble spied as being one of the last surviving Beatles on the drums. "Well, I'm built for comfort, but I ain't built for speed. Yeah, I'm built for comfort, but I've a need for speed." "Did you have a falling out?" asked Humble Bumble. "Not really. He just never bothered with any of the old gang after he found fame." "He's famous?" inquired Humble Bumble. "Yeah, did you not see it? He was in the final of Mollusks Have Talent. He did this song." "Mollusks Have Talent?" Humble Bumble shook his head. "He didn't win anything, but he just became, really smug about it." "That's a shame," said Humble Bumble. "It's okay. It's funny, really. He was beaten by a glee club of ants and some street dancing mussels. I really don't see why he's so pleased with himself." A whole cross-section of the community gathered for the concert. Grasshoppers, crickets, ants, dragonflies, a few honeybees, and the odd moth too. Humble Bumble recognised a few members of the earthworm lacrosse team from the gym, and Colin noted that even a couple of the house spiders had made the journey over. "Come on, Colin. I'm sure he's not that bad. Let's go and show your friend some support. I'm sure he'd be pleased to see you." The pair headed on to take a closer look. Well, that was until they came across an obstacle in their path, an obstacle in the form of a large black cockroach. As Humble Bumble and Colin approached, the guard bristled, straightened his bow tie and brushed down his tuxedo jacket. Looking down at the clipboard in his hands, the mean-looking roach grumbled, "Names!" Colin and Humble looked at one another. "We were just wanting a quick peek, that's all," said Humble Bumble, peering over the ring fence. It's a private party, the bouncer snapped. I need to know your names. Colin mumbled the information, looking down at his 1,000 feet. The names were checked against the list, and the bouncer informed the pair that, as expected, they were not invited. They were not on the list. I'm sorry, said Humble Bumble. Can you not make an exception? Colin here, with the school with Sully, would really like to say hello. The cockroach laughed. Mate, if I had a juicy berry for every insect that wanted FaceTime with Sully, I'd be a very happy anthropod indeed. Look, it's okay, Humble, said Colin, taking his arm. Let's just go. It's really not that important. Okay, but that's a real shame, reasoned Humble Bumble, as the pair started to drift off back the way they came. Then the music stopped. Thank you, my adoring public, bellowed the voice of the tannoy. Humble Bumble stopped in his tracks briefly and turned to face the concert. Colin continued, then also stopped when he realised he was walking off on his own. Thank you, you're too kind. What, you love me? Oh, please, that's very nice of you. See, Humble Bumble? Smug. Come on, said Colin, annoyed. Just wait a second, I'm interested to hear what he has to say. Colin sighed, looked at his watch and took a seat on the bank as Sully and his ego continued. Well, what a roller coaster ride it's been these past few months. I really couldn't have gone through it without you and your support, my people. Thank you, this one is for you. Humble Bumble sat next to Colin on the bank, overlooking all the fuss in the distance, as the frog chorus broke into the opening bars of the Doors' classic Light My Fire. Sully slipped on a pair of dark shades, hung onto the mic stand like Jim Morrison, and began to grumble the timeless lyrics. You know that it would be untrue. You know that I would be a liar. Colin put his head in his hands and started to groan. The crowd went nuts. After all, insects really like the Doors. If I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher, yeah! Right then, Humble Bumble was alerted to a special sense in his antennae. Something was not quite right in the neighbourhood, he felt, and he was right. For in the distance, up at the main house that the garden resided in, one of the children had appeared. The toddler, mouth and lips caked in spaghetti sauce and chocolate cake, threw his striped beach ball in the air and emitted one of those many strange noises that only children can make. This is what Humble Bumble had picked up and instantly pictured the scene in his clever mind. It was the child bouncing the ball in front of them, up and down, then giving it a good kick down the length of the garden. True to his sixth sense, the pair then saw the ball sail over them, briefly blocking out the sun over the crowd of Sully's onlookers. Colin, we should really make a move, he said, with a slight serious tone. Colin raised his head and looked towards his friend. What? You don't want to hear this wonderful rendition anymore? He laughed. It's not that, I just think trouble is on the way. How do you mean? Child alerts, clarified Humble Bumble, as he began to register the gradual footsteps across the ground coming towards them. No, you don't mean... Yes, Colin, but we must warn all these other insects first. Colin jumped up to all of his 1,000 feet and proclaimed, But Humble Bumble, it's quite clear we're not welcome here. Let's go. They can look after themselves. No, Colin, we need to tell them, and fast. Humble Bumble, closely followed by Colin, raced down the bank, back towards the fence surrounding the concert. They jumped up and down, trying to get the attention of Sully as best they could. But the only person that they noticed that what they were doing was the cockroach bouncer, who grew very angry very quickly, and stormed over to where the bugs were, brandishing his clipboard. Fortunately, Sully was slightly too preoccupied to notice our hero's efforts, and in particular the sound of the oncoming footsteps in the distance. This had clearly passed him by, as he then took the mic stand onto the ground, mounted it, and started groaning, Light my fire, yeah, baby, yeah. But those who were watching had noticed, and were gradually moving away from Sully towards safe ground as best they could, knowing that whatever it was coming towards them was edging ever closer to them. Even the frog chorus and the drumming beetles slowly ceased their playing and quietly downed tools, instead deciding to take cover behind a nearby thistle. Humble Bumble continued to shout and wave his arms towards Sully, as Colin jumped up and down on the spot as best he could, but it was to no avail. The cockroach stepped between them, flexed his muscles, but then stopped whatever it was he was about to do, in time to turn around and face a large child peering down at them from the sky above. The cockroach turned back, smiled nervously at Humble Bumble, and scuttled away as fast as he could. This then left Sully singing to himself, and eventually wondering where his band was. He stopped and glanced up. His jaw dropped only in time to see nothing but the giant toddler take a step back and then forward, punting the snail with his bare baby foot clean into the air, like he was scoring a three-pointer at Twickenham. Colin and Humble Bumble stood there and watched Sully sail past them, over their heads. The child jumped up and down on the spot with glee, turned on his heels and ran away as Sully eventually landed between Colin and Humble Bumble in a sore heap. The pair looked down at the dazed snail. Hello, Sully. Hello, Humble Bumble. Hello, Sully. Hello. Hey, hi, Colin. Long time no see. Great gig, snickered Colin. Sorry, we tried to warn you, noticed, motioned Humble Bumble. I appreciate it, groaned Sully in pain. The bugs helped the snail up so his shell was upright once more and polished the scrapes off as best they could. He thanked the pair for their help and looked forlornly towards the ground, realising that the crowd, his people, had deserted him. Humble Bumble made a suggestion. Hey Sully, I know a really great plant around the corner. They brew their own nectar on site and everything. You fancy a pint? Sully looked at Colin and smiled. Yes, Humble Bumble. Yes, I do. Thank you.